Welcome, everybody. It is another Thursday night at Broadcast Team Alpha, and I hope you are as excited as we are to have our esteemed and wonderful guest. You know, there's so much going on in the world right now that it's requiring us often to expand our limits and push against the edges to see if we can find new areas of expansion, new areas of thought, new areas of consciousness. And I think tonight's conversation is going to help make that a little bit easier for us because there's a lot of beautiful information that's going to come out tonight. I invite you to put your disbelief aside and see what you might discover tonight. So, without any further ado, Augie, please tell us about our beautiful guest.
Okay, I will do such. And we have Geraldine Orozco returning to broadcast team on. And for those of you out there who like to surf the internet while you're listening, here is her website, geraldineorozco.com. And just like it says right there on the screen, her name is right on there. So you can get it from there too. Oh, this is going to be interesting because it is so rare to find someone certified in so many different areas of the healing arts. She is the owner and the founder of Bay Area Meditation, a San Francisco based company that teaches meditation. And she's a hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic practitioner, mindfulness stress reduction therapist, and a Qigong master, and certified in quantum energy healing and pranic healing. And here comes the good part. About 10 years ago, she had a life changing interdimensional experience, which resulted in the activation of tremendous psychic abilities. Since then, she has had hypnotic regression and found that she has had a lifelong history of interdimensional contact. And we want to hear about that because that's going to get deep. And there is also a reason why she founded hybridmother.com, the website. There's a story to that. And yeah, that is hybridmother.com. And GeraldineOrozco.com are the two websites you can find her at. And I have talked way too long. We want to hear from Geraldine. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Geraldine.
Hi, it is such a pleasure to be here with both of you. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Thank you for being here. So exciting.
Likewise.
So, I am so curious about hybrid mothers. um, I had my own little experience that I ventured out of my comfort zone and actually talked about. And I have so many questions. But can you just, for the people who this is brand new to, they're going, hybrid mother, what? Wait, what? Can you give them like a little primer to kind of ease them into the water with us?
Yeah. Okay, so the concept of hybridization, the concept of being a hybrid parent, a hybrid mother, or a hybrid father, really, because it is both that are experiencing this, really is distilled down to our innate nature of what it is to be human. We are multidimensional. And our core primary essence is to be pure creators, those that bring and anchor creation. And the human's most highest potential and most powerful ability is the ability to bring a life into manifestation. What is a life? It's an entire universe, it's an implosion of life force that creates an entire self-sustaining vortex system of consciousness. So when we're talking about being a hybrid parent, we are talking about this this innate element of the human to create, but it brings our awareness to the fact that we are creating on more than one dimension. So we can anchor children into this life, we can create children in this life, but we are also creating life on many dimensions. So the hybridization program is really about that. And I call it a program, and it's been coined to be a hybrid program from the concept. And this is why, because unfortunately, this beautiful mechanism and the utilization of the human's primordial life force has been used um, in a manner of inversions, inverted ways, right? So, how do you use sexual energy, the human sexual energy, to weaponize the most potent ability that the human has? Is that you invert your understanding of that ability, and you weaponize it against the human by making it something that they are pursuing just a pleasure, which is non-creative, it's just sensational. uh, and that is actually the death of the human, because the human is uh, the creativity, the creative potential that runs through the human essentially comes to an end when it's only pursuing very superficial sensations or emotions of this grand power that is available to the human. So the hybridization program concept, program from the military, because the military does also have this hybridization program utilizing genetic data from the human in order to create other beings, other entities, other bodies, and higher vibrational intentions of this same use of this ability are interdimensional, where a soul is being anchored into this three-dimensional plane. And some of these souls are incarnating into the incarnation cycle as our children, and some of them are existing on other planes, other dimensions. And we're going to get into it because we have to talk about DNA. We have to talk about the information that is passed on, which is actually really important for us to understand, because that is part of our creative ability. What we are creating and what we are handing down and inheriting into these creations has everything to do. We have full responsibility, and we have to understand the cause and effect of our creations. So if I were to talk about the hybridization program, it's the understanding of the maturing of the human in its form of creation. So when humans have the experience of being aware that they have hybrid children, it's an invitation of initiation for them to become aware of what they're creating, why they're creating, and how to work with your creations, basically. So I'll stop right there, and then we can go deeper into any area that you guys want to take it.
Do you feel like when there's a hybridization happen that there the child is a form of upgrade from what it was before between the mother and whatever was the father?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like our human children, um, well, let's talk about how a soul is brought in before I answer that specifically. And this is why. Every single soul that is called forth into incarnation, into this dimension, is called forth by all of the choices, the cause and effects of ancestral lineages, right? So, all our ancestral lineage, all the experiences collectively, that creates a body of consciousness. Every generation has been born specifically to transcend the last vibrational frequency in the manner of information that they can access through their DNA. And DNA functions like a portal. DNA functions as an access point into all the dimensions in which this specific frequency can access or has the ability to access. So it's important to understand that. And we inherit trauma, we inherit memories, collective memories, ancestral memories. And in that, we are also inheriting our higher faculty abilities, our psychic abilities, our awareness, our memory of our interdimensional brothers and sisters and bloodlines, what are called star seed bloodlines. that are, running through our veins, which are their access points of consciousness that the human has access to. So every generation is an activation of genetic information that is designed to pull forward, but also to align with the natural ascension cycles of this experience in the human form. So the answer is yes. Now, there are certain agendas that are focusing on the destruction of this art form of creation, and when a child is produced in a lot of pain and suffering and trauma, um, a lot of times it takes time for that little soul to access their journey. Is harder eventually, right? Because they have to transcend those programs. And for children that are born in very traumatic families and experiences, both terrestrial and interdimensionally, they are highly potent in their ability to transcend and alchemize the pain and suffering that they have within them. They have access to a lot of this information. So um, because we are one, the mother or the father is deeply interconnected to the offspring, to the children. So when the human parent begins to wake up consciousness and ascends, we actually, through the thread that interconnects us collectively, is also assisting in the ascension of information collectively. So it's really important that we as the parent is continuously working to begin to unravel that ancestral trauma that we hold within us, to clear up the bloodlines for our children. And we are affecting in vivo all of the things that we're creating, really. It's because we are an interconnected web.
You mentioned before consciousness, and I was thinking before we came on tonight, when that happens, when the actual creating of this hybrid life happens, where is our consciousness so that when we come back or wake up, or I don't know the proper words to use, um, we don't remember exactly at that moment that it happened.
Yeah. That the birthing didn't happen, or that the inception didn't happen. Is that what you mean? The insemination?
Yeah, like we don't remember it at
Yeah.
that time. And for some of us, it takes forever, to finally pull it forth. Where
Yeah.
where do we go when that happens?
Yeah, so that's a really deep question. I mean, most of these experiences are happening in our dream state. But we need to understand, what is the dream state? The dream state is brain waves that are shifting that allow our essence to begin to navigate in higher dimensional planes. And the way that we hold the vibrational frequency in the body will define how we navigate those dimensional planes. If we hold a lot of heavy trauma in our body, the kind of planes that we're going to be accessing are going to be resonant to some of those core vibrational belief and stagnant energy that we hold in the body. And so a lot of people will experience very traumatic memories and experiences of this, like, but if the human is ascending and clearing and filtering and trying to elevate the lightness in the higher vibrational movement, because high vibration is not just a state of feeling or emotion or thought. It's an entire architectural structure in the body. The body is a toroidal field, and when the body begins to access that neutral point where love begins to emerge, the body is actually oscillating and rotating at a really high frequency. And that's what it really means to embody a high vibrational frequency. And that opens up the channels of life force to enter into this body, which allows the human to access higher access points of these dimensions. And so in dream state, that's why all the ancient civilizations trained in becoming lucid in their dream state in order to begin to train for death, because essentially, we know ancient wisdom, we're not the physical body. This is just one of our fractals of our aspects of ourselves that is become conscious. And to answer the question of consciousness, Consciousness is really, it's the field, right? The field is conscious, and from the field form emerges. So everything is conscious in a sense. It has a certain level of consciousness. And so from the morphogenetic field, we talked about the morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field is really the field in which this instruction manual from where the human form emerges and all living organisms emerge from. There's a certain instruction manual to that. There's a certain, and all of that is based in the blueprint of the DNA. Okay. So for us to uh, access the memories that are within that field, we need to understand we are bioelectrical organisms. The amount of speed, spin rate that we embody in the body architecturally will equate to the emotional states, will equate to the amount of life force that we're able to anchor through the body into the earth. And all of that, sustaining that, is essentially accessing higher states of consciousness, higher states of awareness, more expanded states of awareness. And so, um, which also means more memory, access to more memory. Because essentially, when the human is disconnected from their higher faculties, right, we're made up, our body is split up in three main parts: the lower, the middle, and the upper dantian. It represents the integration of all our parts, the physical part, the emotional sensation, everyday life part, and then the higher faculties, and through the heart, this unconditional love that creates a coherence in which the human can begin to see itself as everything around it. That is a very specific state of existing and creation. So, you know as humans, when we begin to recover the memory of what we are, that is done through the activation of the heart coherence. Because when we recognize ourselves as others in others, this is where we begin to remember the oneness. Most humans begin to access past lives. And I want to be clear that what we're talking about in terms of time from the human construct is very limited, and it's very specifically pertinent to just this dimensional plane. It's a construct that we created, in other words. Time is actually spherical, in which everything is accessible simultaneously. So when we talk about when did these events happen, and why don't we remember them, first and foremost, it's about the vibrational frequency that the human can harness in the body, which allows them to become more of a conduit, which allows them to activate the bioelectricity in the body, is from which the memory is accessible through the DNA. So when we talk about DNA activation, we're actually talking about entering into the highest form of conduit that we can actually recover the memory of past lives, future lives, which all exist, are available to the human based on their frequency, available to them here and now. And this is where we recover the memories of hybridization, which is why oftentimes humans, they just remember little glimpses of it. And we have what's called marker memories, really powerful, strong memories that you had as a child that you will never forget. It's realer than real life. You always keep coming back to that memory. And when you begin to, start to sit with that memory and open it up, you begin to open up an entire realm and memories of yourself that you had not known before. And this is really important because we don't realize the amount of work, spiritual work and soul work, you can say, activities that we are doing in our dream state. We make contracts with everyone. You and I have a contract right now to be on talking together, and all the people that are tuning in have contracts with us. So we have these experiential agreements, and those experiential agreements, we're making them um, either consciously or unconsciously. We make them through our vibrational frequency, through our resonance. And so in dream state, we are also agreeing to these experiences, to these creations, to bringing those lives in, those little souls, we're creating them. And oftentimes, sometimes the human becomes very traumatized because our concept of sex and creation is very inverted. It's very limited. There's a lot of taboo, there's a lot of shame and guilt attached to our sexuality, to our desire, and to our creation. And that's how you paralyze an entire human race. That's how you control an entire human race. But as we are evolving and growing and maturing as a human race, we're beginning to remember, wait a minute, our sexual energy and our creation potential is infinite. And this is where the human begins to bridge universes into becoming that universal citizen, that universal being of consciousness uh, that is very responsible for their creation, that becomes conscious of the cause and effect and how that plays out in this terrestrial plane. Yeah, so a good way to recover the memories can be through hypnotherapy, which is something that I offer my clients. But if you don't work with me, you can do it by yourself. You can go into deep states of meditation and begin to recover the memories. For me, how it happened was that I went into retreat for 4 months and I began to deprogram all of my matrix programming. And it was when I reached the 0 point. And that's the first point of the zero, because you're going to be entering and understanding the 0 point in deeper levels as you keep going. Um, but that is what allowed me to enter a frequency where I was able to have these experiences, and then my psychic abilities were activated as a result of that. And this is not an uncommon story. There are hundreds and thousands of humans around the world, men and women, that are experiencing these kinds of experiences, and they're activating themselves through their awareness.
Amazing.
In your hypnotherapy that you did you find out also that maybe you were not the only one in your family that had experiences like this? I have a sneaky suspicion that your mom did. And maybe could it possibly be that you are also a hybrid?
Yeah. Yeah, awesome question. So actually one of the most shocking parts of these experiences was that the next day after, I so my experience happened on Friday, October the 13th, 2013. And then on Sunday, I called my parents because I slept the entire Saturday to Sunday. I was out after this experience.
You
Um,
lost today.
yeah, I literally lost a day. Yeah, really. It was just recovering, I believe, or readjusting. And so Sunday, I grabbed the phone and I called my parents and I tell them what had happened. And to my surprise, they had had experiences and it was so common for them. They were just like, oh yeah, we've had experiences like that, we've had tons of sightings and beings, and my father has these incredible dreams and walking in lucid dreams. I have a very spiritual family. So but we've never touched that topic. So it just shocked me to hear that. So fast forward into 2017 during my hypnotherapy. um, First of all, when the documentary Extraordinary the Seeding came out, it was the first time really that I was absolutely public. I mean, before that, I completely did not tell anyone other than my partner and my parents at the time. And then it was from there, 0 to 100, this film comes out, and my whole family saw the film. And that's when, I started getting a phone call from my aunt, for example, who actually I saw in my contact experience on board my same craft, being guided by these beings. So, I was shocked to see her there in her nightgown, unconscious, but walking in front of me. So fast forward to 2017, I hadn't spoken to her about it. She tells me that night, that exact night that you had your experience in the film, I ended up in the hospital at 4 in the morning with a fever of 110 because I woke up from a dream that a gray being with huge eyes came and put something here in the back of my neck, and said, "Don't worry, you won't get hurt." And I lost consciousness. And then
Wow.
couple hours later, she's rushed to the hospital with a fever 104. So physically, because we enter into these dimensions, I think the body does have adjustment periods, and something that we shouldn't be afraid of. It's something that we need to learn. Um, that in a way we're kind of distilling and clearing out all the junk, the low vibrational junk from the body, in order to experience this high vibrational experiences. Because when we have these experiences, we're entering into higher dimensions, and the body is adjusting. That's why a lot of contactees end up with psychic abilities as a result of these contact experiences, healings, incredible, spontaneous healings. um, yeah, so and then later, when I went deeper into my research as a result of the hypnotherapy, my hypnotherapies are public. You can hear them and watch them and learn about my process there. But I began to interview families that have been having contact, and I began to discover, through doing hypnotherapy on all family members, and my family also had, all of them had hypnotherapies, began to uncover contact experiences. And what I began to notice is that we're kind of meeting the same kind of beings, and I was wondering, like, is that the same for other families? So I began to interview other families, and these families were all separately doing hypnotherapies, not discussing what they had experienced. And they were discovering connections with blue beings, and then all of them were having blue being connections. All of them were having uh, Lyran connections, Arcturian, Pleiadian. So, after talking to really hundreds, thousands of people at this point, I mean, it's been so many years that I've been working with contactees. Um, it's running through the families. Like, we literally are connected to these species. These species, I don't like to use that word, but we use them to conceptualize what we're talking about here. What it really is the different vibrational frequencies of beings that are manifesting for us. We have encoded in our DNA. And when we become conscious, we begin to activate these memories, and we begin to remember who our lineages are. I also I also have discovered that these lineages are linked terrestrially in the planet Earth. Culturally, we have them in our ancestral races. Certain continents are holding a lot of ancestral history and memory of the connection with certain planetary systems. Venusians, or Orion, and the Pleiadians, Lyrans, Greys, Reptilians, Draconian, the reptilian bloodlines, the snake people, the Naga people, all of these, the Seven Sisters, the Pleiadians, which have all had their history on Earth with all of our ancestors. And we hold that memory in our DNA. So the human, when they become conscious, they begin to connect to these. When I was a child, I used to pray to the Pleiades before I even knew the word Pleiades. No idea why. I just had this incredible, intense connection. And lo and behold, you know, all of my family has connections with these Pleiadians, and it goes back into the ancestors, even to the land that my great, 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 great grandfather bought and owned and built a church on, had connections to the Seven Sisters. All of the ancestors there were drawing the Seven Sisters on the walls of these caves next to this land. So we have profound connections, and I think that it helps us understand our multidimensionality. And when we begin to remember that, the dream begins to dispel. So our dream state here, this is a dream state that we're holographically co-creating, but also the dreams that we're accessing in dream time are very important. The more that we become lucid, the more we're going to remember. The more we collect information, the more the body heals. And in this memory, the recovering of this memory, we're healing a lot of ancestral trauma, because we are remembering and recognizing ourselves as really high vibrational beings of consciousness.
I see we are at the bottom of the hour. So, for those of you that joined us late, we are talking with Geraldine Orozco, and we are talking about her extraterrestrial and interdimensional extraterrestrial contact. And this is getting deep. We're talking actually about hybrid mothers. And please continue because this got interesting.
Thank you so much. Well, maybe what I'll do is let's break down what it is to have a hybridization experience. There are there's like really specific parameters to it, which is really interesting. That seems to be a common norm amongst a lot of contactees on the planet. And hybridization program is not just affecting the female; it's also affecting the male. But of course, for the female, it's more impactful because she's the carrier of the life, and that carrying of life is bleeding into her everyday human life. So she will literally experience sensations of becoming pregnant, positive pregnancy tests, um, you know, and for me, what happened, just to give you an idea of what's happening here, um, I found myself pregnant at the age of 16, being a virgin. I was a virgin. I come from a super conservative, Catholic family, but also Gnostic family. So our concept, of sex and family, it's like very very sacred. I kind of grew up with that mentality. So I was very innocent to those things, but I became sick after losing time and having a dream of these beings coming to me and then touching my chest and my belly, and a big blue white light is expanding here in the body. And next day I'm starting to feel, these sensations, and I'm late in my cycle, and I start to have morning sickness and vivid dreams of these beings every single night. And my uncle, who was a doctor, said, "Oh, it's probably just a stomach flu. It's okay." Tried to give me antibiotics, was super allergic to antibiotics all of a sudden, because I was fine taking antibiotics and medications before. But from that moment forward, I was not able to take medications of any kind. My body just, the chemistry changed in my body. Um, so it was very strange. And then after 3 weeks after that, um, I had a miscarriage, a supposed miscarriage. And, when I went to the doctor said, "So, you've had children before, or you've been pregnant before." And I'm like, "I'm 16. No, and, you can check if you're a virgin." I was a virgin. Um, and, and they were confused. They didn't understand what happened and why I was having these kinds of symptoms in the body. Uh, and so, medically, the doctor says, "Okay, well, maybe you're just under a lot of stress, and this is happening." Um, and they were able to find, they found cysts in the body as well that were developed and scarring inside of the uterus. Okay, so it was very confusing. Nobody could answer that question. So fast forward to coming back here to the States. That happened when I was in South America. I lived there for a couple of years. And then I came here and again, and the same thing happened. I was not partnered and I became pregnant. And the doctor said, "You must really want to have children, because sometimes women that want to have children, they create these, false alarms biochemically in the body, that produces the hormone of pregnancy." But it was more than that. It was literally a positive pregnancy test, and then 3 months later I have this miscarriage, but there's no more fetus. And I had intense dream. Yeah, this intense dream that these beings come and take something out of my belly, and next day I'm having this miscarriage. So, for me, it was extremely confusing. I wasn't understanding what was happening to me. I didn't understand if it was a pregnancy, because I didn't have illusions of having children. I wasn't a person that was like, "Oh, I can't wait to have children." No, I was okay with whatever was happening, but these events would happen. So for many women, what happens is that they experience several parts. In 2013, when I went into this retreat for myself, is where I had the experience of being taken on board this craft, and I was introduced to children. And when I saw these children, I recognized myself. They were a combination of human and grays and reptilian children. They were a combination. It was shocking. And as I made contact with the children, all the memories came flushing back of having birthed them, having hold them, having being other times on craft with these children. And I was like, where do these memories come from? How do they come? And I didn't remember in that moment all these events that happened to me yet. It didn't connect at all. So, after the presentation, I began to, meditate on what had happened. And I realized that, I've had many contact experiences since the age of 5. At the age of 5, it was a white light coming into the room. Um, and then I had missing time. And then another memory like that, age 15, the one that I shared with you, then 22, then 24. And they were all combined with these kinds of pregnancies and strange memories. So most women experience the memories of implantation, which is usually where there's some kind of implants put into the body for the purpose of monitoring. There's some kind of connection with these beings for the purpose of monitoring. And these implants for me were a three-pointed triangle on my arm, which after the hypnotherapy, this is interdimensional technology. It's biological, but it's also interdimensional. So we can remove the implants from the body. You can dissolve them. You can break them. So a lot of times they're meant to heal your body and regulate your body. Other times, sometimes they can cause a lot of issues if we're not holding a certain vibrational frequency in the body. So and that's when you have to remove them and try to eliminate them from the body. So second, after this implantation occurs, there's an insemination, and the insemination process is extremely important because that dictates how vibrational frequency is anchored in order to create the soul. So when there are scenarios, and there are different scenarios, there are military agendas that try to also create hybrids. Um, and those militaries agendas are managed primarily by Draco reptilian beings that are connected with our military, with our terrestrial military. And they operate under the biological um, nuclear warfare department. And the purpose of this is the utilization of the human DNA in order to create clone like organisms um, that are also creating life on other neighboring planets and solar systems. Okay, so this is an intergalactic system. It's quite parasitic because a lot of times it's infringing on the unconscious human that is not accessing their free will. So it's a parasitic exchange. We do participate in that because we are unconscious. Okay, so we have to understand there's a price to pay when you're unconscious. Your lack of consciousness doesn't allow you to access free will, and so you can be pulled into a lot of these parasitic programs. That's why it's really important to be aware and lucid. So these parasitic programs are usually the ones that leave a lot of scarring marks, traumatic experiences, and military-like abductions for humans. And it's not to be confused with the interdimensional contact experiences, which are quite different in the quality of how they affect the human. Okay, so the more parasitic military programs, they create hybrids as well. And even though the planet Earth abides by a kind of self-organizing intelligence that is uniting humans in order to create life on higher order, these parasitic programs usually will take advantage of those of that natural order in order to um, utilize bloodlines that are highly intuitive. And a lot of these highly intuitive beings, humans like me and you, are utilized for military programs. They are fractalized and put into MK Ultra programs, programs like this that are very uh, parasitic in utilizing the human for their abilities. So that's one part. Okay, and it's important to point that out because if you're having a lot of really traumatic, physically charging experiences, this is what's occurring, and you have to deal with that in a different way. Okay, so the next is the human that is having interdimensional experiences with these higher vibrational beings. Um, And the purpose of that is to anchor higher consciousness into the bloodlines. Okay. And the humans that are being created are created through pure love, pure love. And these scenarios of creation for the purpose of the insemination are orchestrated. They are both orchestrated on board crafts interdimensionally, and they're also orchestrated terrestrially. Okay, so two high vibration beings come together, create a life. So there is really no life that is created without purpose. Even little babies and fetuses that are existing temporarily, like for miscarriages, like women that have miscarriages, there's no such thing as a child that dies. Once a soul is anchored into some matter, it's through the cell, that soul is existing, and sometimes that's the purpose. And it's very, very important because it becomes an imprint in the interdimensional genetic memory of this organism that will use that temporary experience in that short little lived time during the gestation process as part of their evolutionary process. So there is no life, there's no such thing as the law of energy is that you cannot destroy it. It does not become eliminated. It only transforms. So that's something that we need to understand when it comes to the hybridization program. We are becoming alchemists through what we are creating. So the highest vibrational programs are the ones that are really consciously utilizing the sexual energy in order to anchor pure consciousness into the body of a new soul. And these are they are uh, they are created by the use of alchemical transmutation practices, which have been highly suppressed in our human history, which are the techniques of anchoring pure love into the body and then creating from there. And that's something that has not been taught to us, and which is why we're so confused about the role of sex. Even in our spiritual path, we're so confused, you know. So the highest form of alchemy is the ability to create this life, and we also have the ability of creating life as just an energy, which is what allows the human to access longevity. Okay, so the key in the fountain of youth, the fountain of life, is to learn how to regenerate this primordial energy back into the stream of consciousness and regeneration in order to anchor a soul and to continue our soul evolution. So the hybridization program really speaks to the highest levels of ascension that the human has the potential of accessing. And a lot of this was suppressed and inverted through history. But the human that wakes up consciousness can begin to heal all the traumas. That's why sexual trauma is one of the hardest things to heal in our human history. And it's also why there's the kinds of um, agendas and through Hollywood, like we're seeing all of this sexual abuse, sexual trafficking, all of that is the inversion of the human's primordial energy. It is a dark magic. It is the inversion of that. So we're cleaning that up from our lineage, and somehow the DNA bloodlines are becoming refined, and we are learning how to alchemize into a higher octave of co-creation.
Amazing. And when the program is more governmental, um, whether it's this government or another government, how do they keep track of their test subjects? Or I'm not sure what they would be called at that point, but
Yeah, there's a couple things. You see, right now, in the next 10 years, we're going to start understanding the impact of our donation to companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com. We've openly donated and we've paid for giving our genetic data to build a massive DNA database. Okay. So we're not going to understand yet what that means until pretty soon. Right now, think of the combination of that information with AI and then understand how much power that has over the human race. Okay. So this can be used for a tremendous amount of good. because and a lot of medical organizations are trying to use it, the sequencing of DNA to find cures for things. Okay, so our medicine is going to change very soon, but it's through the DNA that we are interconnected through a web of information and history. And um, literally, the government has been collecting this information for a long time. But even before that, there have been a lot of agendas, eugenic programs to eliminate certain bloodlines. Okay, and that's a very real part of our human history that we keep wanting to not hear about and not talk about. But it's very important because we need to understand why. Why is that? Why has that happened in our history and is happening
Yeah.
with pharmaceuticals, with the food, with emotional manipulation? All of that is depleting the potential history bank, intergalactic history that is available to humans through their own DNA. So um, how do they keep track of that? Every single country that we are born into has a certain genetic structure, holographic genetic memory, and where we live on the earth is part of the human organism. The human planet, the planet also has chakra systems, energy systems, which simply means self-organizing vibrational frequency system. Okay, the self-organizing intelligence of the planet earth allocates consciousness based on frequency in order to maintain a whole harmony. Okay, the planet earth maintains its harmony. So when humans are born in certain lineages and bloodlines, all of the knowledge and information that comes through that little soul, that baby that's born, is the potential of healing this race. And it holds the trauma, the suffering, the pain, the suppression of that race historically. So, in a sense, every single country, if you can imagine, is holding this level of information. Every human holds that potential for that lineage. So, the kind of government that we're talking about is not just like the US government or the Chinese government. We're talking about the actual real governing system that is understanding and deeply connected to the self-organizing system, in order to allocate and suppress somehow this evolutionary cycle, because evolution is very natural. You cannot control it, you cannot suppress it. However, you can manipulate human consciousness into believing that they are disempowered in some way and make them forget, you know? This is something that right now we are pulling out of a pretty heavy haze of amnesia collectively. But what that means is that we're also recovering the memory of what we actually are, which is interdimensional powerhouses of creation. So, more in the direction that we're going in to access our free will, we pull away from the matrix programming, the social engineering that is causing us to fall back into states of hypnosis. And the way that I used to look at this was that we're in some kind of war against these parasitic beings. But my concept of this has evolved tremendously since then, because there's there is a stronger unifying force to this. Okay. There is no victims in this planet. We are all have the capacity to wake up consciousness. And essentially, there is a certain harmony that is being maintained. Otherwise, this planet would implode. If there was no harmony in some way, it would implode. It would destruct itself. Okay. So this self-organizing intelligence, each one of those traumatic lessons is serving the higher purpose of the collective intelligence. And we need to understand that and have the maturity to integrate deeply our trauma and to be able to transcend it, not hold it up on a pedestal, because we do that and then we're stuck. So we have to
Yeah.
keep evolving and becoming friends with the cycles of life and death, which are natural to this earth. That's what the human experience is. We live in this dualistic experience in order to experience that contrast, choice of law of cause and effect. So the moment that the human is aware of that, it can break the ancestral trauma history. It wakes up and now it begins to anchor the new human, which is the one that is conscious, that has recovered that memory, which is able to change how we move forward. And I believe that we are not enslaved, we are not trapped, we are not victimized by any of these systems. Rather, it's part of our maturing process as a human, and we have
Yeah.
very much, we have very much chosen to experience this temporary contrast in order to ascend. Because guess what? You're an alchemist. Not only are you biologically, biochemically, bioelectrically a conduit. That tells you something, that there's an alchemization process. So we have to turn this stone into gold. And that's
Mhm.
doing spiritually, we're doing it physically, we're doing it with the children we bring in, we're doing it with the love that we share with one another, you know.
Okay. I got a question right on that thought. I bet there are ladies out there right now that is thinking, gosh, I've had these kinds of dreams. I had missing time. I had this thing under my skin in the back of my neck, and I don't know what it is because it's not natural. If you wonder about some of these things, I think you need to talk to Geraldine because there's a reason why she created hybridmother.com. Could you talk about that website and what you can help people with besides other things that you can help them with?
Yeah, thank you so much. So hybridmother.com, it's an international support group for contactees, people that are experiencing these kinds of experiences, whether it's the hybridization program or any kind of contact experience with interdimensionals. I'm happy to assist, and my job is to help you integrate your experience in order to find peace and harmony, and sovereignty, and access your free will. So what I focus on is healing of trauma, of those experiences, healing of the disassociation that results from these experiences, because obviously it's hard, and I've lived it myself, thinking that we need to live double lives, the one that experiences this thing and then the one that has to live human everyday life. So there's an element of integration that has to occur, in understanding that this is that interdimensionality is very natural. Okay, so I offer something called DNA reprogramming, which is simply deprogramming matrix limiting beliefs to help you access this self-healing, self-regenerative, and your memory. And I also offer hypnotherapy, which allows you to access your subconscious mind and uncover your memory of these experiences and your connection to the stars, essentially, your starseed roots. And this is very healing for the human because they begin to understand why they made those agreements. Why are they opened themselves up to their awareness of who they are. So it's a very powerful session. And people heal a lot of things, even physical ailments, from these kinds of sessions. And the support group is free. You're very welcome to join me there. We just connect once a month and discuss these experiences in depth. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
In the meantime, Geraldine, no matter where we are on the trajectory, just beginning to remember that you have memories to maybe where you're further along, what could you offer all of us that would lead us more to regaining our sovereignty? What are the things that we could possibly do, when we wake up in the morning or on a daily basis that will begin to help us to go into that more expansive and understanding dimension?
Yeah, one of the most powerful practices I would invite you to do is to continuously find your observer. Okay. So, how do you cultivate the 0 point? The 0 point is the place of non judgmental observation. It's extremely important for the human to cultivate the non judgmental observer within themselves, because this is the key to shifting from this dualistic way of perception into a unity perception within yourself and within yourself with the external. It's extremely important because when we're operating in dualism, we're at war. Internally, we judge ourselves, we want to criticize, we want to, compartmentalize parts of ourselves, experiences. That doesn't serve anyone. It's in this realm, it's about unity, unifying yourself, becoming whole. That's what healing means. So we need to continuously come back to finding the observer, the one that's observing the sensations of your hands, the one that's observing the way the emotion is moving through your body. Continuously find that observer. You will find all trauma, all pain, suffering that is tied to the past or the future dissolves in that moment. That's who we have to cultivate because that's the true self. And that true self has no form, it has no identity, it has no name. And that's what you are. You are all and nothing simultaneously. So a lot of people that have experiences, they want to attach to, oh, I'm Arcturian, I'm Pleiadian, you are all and nothing. And it is the quickest way to try to experience this human experience without suffering, to lessen the suffering. And this state of observation is aligning you with nature. It's aligning you with the natural laws, the ebb and flow, coming and going, taking, creating, death, life and death, which is extremely important for the human to mature into that understanding, mind, body, and soul. And this is the key to harmony. So the more we come into that non-judgmental observer, and that's ongoing meditation. As you can see, you can sit for an hour, but I'm telling you to do this the entire day, and that will change your life completely. So this is just something I can share.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That is precious gold right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and also tell us how people can get a hold of you. Is there a place on the website where they can contact you, or the email addresses, or something that you want to let out?
Yeah, so both of my websites, Geraldine Orozco and Hybrid Mother, have little inboxes for you to log in, make an account, log in, and you can communicate with me directly through there. Or you can, book a session. I also have a YouTube channel, Geraldine Orozco, which I have a lot of like free content and trainings and education on there that you can check out. That's fully accessible. So definitely subscribe to that. And I am here to serve. So in any way that I can assist you, definitely connect with me. Very happy. Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you so much.
Wow, this has been quite an education.
Lovely. It's been
It's
great. Thank
so
you.
fun to chat with you today. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, well, Nori, I think we're down to the end of the show here, but
We are down to the
yes.
minute. Mm.
Can I ask you a last question I love to ask people? And that is, if you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, Geraldine, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that love is not an emotion, it's a state of being. And try to spend time understanding what love means. I talked about the 0 point. Well, what emerges from that non judgmental observer is pure love. And that is, it's a non attachment, it's a state of unification with yourself and all things. And I that was my initial question coming into my spiritual journey, and it took a long way. So go into that question because that question will help you find some really amazing answers in this world. It's very interesting.
Thank
Love,
you.
love yourself, accept
Thank
yourself.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks. Thanks, Aage. Thanks.